Willowbrook was a charming, idyllic village tucked away in a lush valley surrounded by rolling green hills and dense forests. It was the kind of place where life moved at a peaceful pace and everyone knew one another by name. The village had cobblestone streets, quaint wooden cottages with thatched roofs, and gardens bursting with colorful wildflowers. A small, sparkling river meandered through the heart of the village, providing fresh water and nourishment for the fields. The people of Willowbrook were deeply connected to nature, living off the land and taking great care to preserve its beauty. Each season brought its own joys, the golden hues of autumn, the soft blossoms of spring, the lively festivals of summer, and the cozy snow-covered evenings of winter. However, the village also carried with it a sense of mystery and wonder, rooted in stories passed down through generations. At the heart of these tales was the legend of the Crystal of Unity, an ancient artifact said to hold immense power. According to folklore, the crystal was created by the forest spirits as a gift to humanity, symbolizing the importance of harmony and togetherness. It was believed to have the ability to heal the land, bring peace to the people, and protect against any harm. However, the crystal's magic could only be unlocked by those with pure hearts and unbreakable bonds. The crystal was said to rest in the Forest of Echoes, a sprawling woodland that lay beyond the edge of the village. The forest was unlike any other. Its trees were ancient, with gnarled roots that twisted like fingers into the earth, and its canopy was so dense that sunlight barely reached the forest floor. Whispers of wind seemed to carry voices, earning it its eerie name. It was said that the forest protected the crystal with a series of trials, designed to test the resolve and unity of anyone who dared to enter. Although the elders of Willowbrook often spoke of the forest in hushed tones, warning of its dangers, the villagers treated the legend as little more than a fairy tale. Yet the mere existence of the forest and its connection to the stories gave the village an air of magic and mystery, as though it were a place suspended between reality and myth. Would you like more vivid descriptions of the village or additional backstory about the legend? Expanded point. The problem. For generations, Willowbrook had thrived as a peaceful and self-sustaining village, its people living in harmony with the land. The river provided clear, fresh water for drinking and irrigation, the fields yielded bountiful harvests, and the surrounding forest offered game and resources. Life was simple but fulfilling, and the villagers felt a deep connection to their home. However, one fateful summer, an unsettling change began to creep over Willowbrook. It started subtly. Plants in the fields began to droop, their leaves tinged with an unusual yellow. The river, once lively and full, started to run slower and shallower, its waters clouded with silt. Birds that once filled the air with their cheerful songs were now silent, and the villagers noticed that animals were growing scarce. At first, the villagers dismissed these signs as temporary misfortunes, a harsh season perhaps, or a passing drought. But as weeks turned into months, the situation grew worse. The crops that were the lifeblood of the village began to fail entirely, leaving fields barren and cracked under the sun. The river, once the heart of the village, dwindled to little more than a trickle. Wells that had never run dry were suddenly empty, forcing villagers to ration water. Even more alarming was the forest surrounding the village. The once vibrant trees of the Forest of Echoes began to wither, their leaves turning brown and falling in heaps long before autumn arrived. The air, once fresh and fragrant with the scent of wildflowers, grew heavy and oppressive, filled with a strange stillness. The forest, which had always seemed mysterious but alive, now felt ominous and foreboding, as though it were holding its breath. The villagers gathered in the town square to discuss the crisis. The elders, who had seen many seasons come and go, admitted that they had never experienced anything like this before. Rumors began to spread. Some claimed it was a curse. Others believed it was a punishment from the forest spirits for some unknown transgression. One said, amid the growing fear and uncertainty, the village healer, an old woman named Elder Marin, brought up the legend of the Crystal of Unity. She explained that the crystal's magic was not only a source of healing, but also a vital connection between the land and its people. If the crystal's power had been disrupted, it could explain the unnatural decay spreading through the village and forest. Elder Marin told the villagers that the crystal was set to reside deep in the Forest of Echoes, but no one had attempted to retrieve it in living memory. The forest's trials were dangerous, and only those with pure hearts and unbreakable bonds could hope to succeed. Desperate to save their home, but afraid of the perils that lay ahead, the villagers hesitated, uncertain of what to do. The sense of urgency grew with each passing day. Children grew hungry, the elderly fell ill from lack of clean water, and hope began to fade. It was in this dark hour that Amara, Lucas, and Sienna stepped forward. Despite their fear, the trio declared their intention to retrieve the crystal. Their friendship had always been their greatest strength, and they believed that together they could overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. The decision was met with both relief and trepidation, The villagers admired the trio's courage but feared for their safety. With heavy hearts, the elders gave their blessing, offering them supplies and what little guidance they could. As the trio prepared to leave, the entire village gathered to see them off, their eyes filled with both hope and uncertainty. The burden of saving Willowbrook now rested on the shoulders of three friends, whose bond would soon be tested like never before. Would you like me to expand on the emotional stakes or the villagers' reactions to this growing crisis? Expanded point. The friendship Amara, Lucas, and Sienna had been inseparable since childhood. Their bond was the kind of rare, enduring friendship that felt as natural and timeless as the seasons in Willowbrook. Though they were three very different individuals, it was these differences that made their connection so strong. They complemented one another, each bringing unique strengths and perspectives to their group. Amara, the bold leader Amara, was the fiery heart of the trio, with a personality as vibrant as the summer sun. She was brave, outspoken, and fiercely loyal to her friends. Growing up, Amara was the one who always led the way during the childhood adventures. Whether it was climbing the tallest trees, exploring hidden caves, or standing up to bullies at school, she had a natural charisma that made others gravitate toward her, but her courage was not without its flaws. At times, her boldness could come across as impulsiveness, leading her friends into trouble. However, her unwavering determination and willingness to protect those she loved earned her the trust and admiration of Lucas and Sienna. Lucas, the thoughtful strategist, Lucas was the calm and measured counterpart to Amara's fiery energy. Analytical and detail-oriented, he was the thinker of the group, always observing and weighing options before making a decision. While Amara acted on instinct, Lucas preferred to approach situations with logic and a well-thought-out plan. He had a natural talent for solving puzzles, crafting strategies, and noticing things others often overlooked. Despite his reserved nature, Lucas had a quiet strength that made him a steady anchor for the group. He often acted as the voice of reason when emotions ran high, keeping the trio grounded in moments of chaos. Sienna, the creative and empathetic peacemaker, Sienna was the soul of the trio, her warm and gentle nature binding the group together. She had a creative mind that saw possibilities where others saw obstacles, and her ability to think outside the box often led to ingenious solutions. Sienna also possessed a deep empathy that allowed her to sense the emotions of those around her. She was the one who diffused arguments, soothed fears, and reminded her friends of their shared purpose when things got tough. While she lacked Amara's boldness and Lucas's strategic mindset, Sienna's intuition and emotional intelligence were the glue that kept their friendship strong. A bond forged over time, the trio's friendship was forged in the simple joys and trials of growing up in Willowbrook. They spent countless hours exploring the woods, swimming in the river, and chasing fireflies under the starlit skies. They shared secrets, dreams, and fears, building a trust that ran deep. When one of them faced a challenge, the other two were always there to offer support. Their bond wasn't without its challenges, of course. Amara's headstrong nature sometimes clashed with Lucas's cautiousness, and Sienna often found herself mediating their disagreements. But no matter how heated their arguments became, they always found their way back to each other, knowing that their friendship was stronger than any momentary conflict. The secret to their strength, what made their friendship truly special, was their unshakable belief in one another. Amara admired Lucas's intellect and trusted his judgment, even when she didn't fully understand his methods. Lucas respected Amara's courage and relied on her to push him out of his comfort zone. Sienna, meanwhile, saw the best in both of them and reminded them of the strength they shared as a team. It was this deep understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses that made them more than just friends. They were a family. When the blight struck Willowbrook and the villagers needed someone to step forward, the trio didn't hesitate. They knew that together they could face anything, even the perils of the Forest of Echoes. As they prepared for the journey, their friendship became their greatest weapon. They knew the trials ahead would test their bond like never before, but they also believed that their unity would carry them through. For Amara, Lucas, and Sienna, the secret to their strength was simple. They were stronger together than they could ever be alone. Would you like me to dive into any specific moments that highlight their friendship, such as a childhood adventure or a pivotal emotional moment? Expand a point, the legend of the Crystal of Unity was one of Willowbrook's oldest and most cherished tales. It was whispered by elders around crackling fires during long winter nights and passed down from generation to generation. While many dismissed it as nothing more than a myth, the story was deeply woven into the culture and identity of the village. To the villagers, it was a reminder of the importance of harmony, selflessness, and the strength found in unity. The origins of the crystal long ago. Before Willowbrook was established, the valley was home to ancient forest spirits who lived in harmony with nature. These spirits were guardians of the land, nurturing its growth and ensuring its balance. However, the peace of the valley was threatened when neighboring kingdoms began warring over its fertile lands. The conflict scarred the earth, with rivers drying up and forests burning as greed and hatred consumed the hearts of men. In their sorrow, the forest spirits came together to create a powerful artifact that could restore balance and remind humanity of the importance of unity. They called it the Crystal of Unity. The crystal was imbued with the essence of the forest itself, the strength of its trees, the clarity of its waters, and the harmony of its creatures. It was said to radiate a soft, otherworldly light, capable of healing wounds, mending broken land, and bringing peace to even the most divided hearts. The spirits placed the crystal deep within the heart of the Forest of Echoes, a sacred woodland that served as both a refuge and a challenge. They wove powerful enchantments around the crystal, ensuring that it could not be accessed easily. The forest would test anyone who sought it, forcing them to confront their fears, doubts, and insecurities. Only those with pure hearts and an unbreakable bond, whether of friendship, love, or community, could hope to retrieve the crystal. The trials of the Forest of Echoes was said to be alive, its magic reacting to the intentions and emotions of those who entered. Over the centuries, countless adventurers had attempted to retrieve the crystal, lured by tales of its power, but none had succeeded. The forest was not a place that could be conquered by brute strength or clever tricks. It demanded vulnerability, selflessness, and trust. The legend spoke of 3 key trials that awaited any who ventured into the forest. The trial of trust, a test that required individuals to rely on one another completely, often forcing them to face their deepest insecurities. The trial of sacrifice, a challenge that demanded selflessness, where one had to give up something precious for the greater good. The trial of unity, the final test, where only true cooperation and harmony could unlock the crystal's power. Each trial was designed not only to protect the crystal, but also to teach those who sought it the values it represented: trust, sacrifice, and unity, the forgotten guardians. The legend also told of mysterious guardians of the forest, spectral beings believed to watch over the crystal and the trials. Some stories described them as benevolent spirits who guided worthy seekers, while others claimed they were fearsome protectors who punished those who failed the tests. Their true nature remained a mystery, but their presence added to the forest's mystique. The power of the crystal, according to the tale, the crystal's power could heal not only the land, but also the hearts of those who touched it. It was said that even the most hardened soul would feel an overwhelming sense of peace and clarity in its presence. The crystal could mend broken relationships, restore lost hope, and breathe life into dying land. However, its magic was not limitless. It needed to be nurtured by the same virtues it embodied. The legend warned that if the values of trust and unity were forgotten, the crystal's power would wane and the land would begin to wither. This was why the village elders believed the current blight was no coincidence. They suspected that the forest's magic and the crystal itself had been disrupted by the growing disconnection among the villagers, who become more focused on survival than community. A forgotten journey. Though the legend was well known, no one in living memory had ventured into the Forest of Echoes to seek the crystal. Stories of failed attempts and whispered warnings had turned the forest into a place of fear and superstition. Some believed the crystal was nothing more than a fairy tale, while others feared the trials would be too dangerous to survive. Yet, when Willowbrook began to fall into despair, the legend of the crystal resurfaced as a beacon of hope. The elders spoke of it with renewed urgency, and for the first time in generations, someone was willing to risk everything to retrieve it. Amara, Lucas, and Sienna. The trio's friendship, unshakable and pure, made them the first in centuries who might stand a chance of succeeding where others had failed. Would you like to explore more about the Guardians of the Forest, or dive deeper into how the legend shaped the villagers' lives? Expanded point. The first trial, the trial of trust, as Amara, Lucas, and Sienna ventured deeper into the Forest of Echoes, the dense canopy overhead began to thicken, blocking out the sunlight. Shadows danced around them, and an eerie stillness settled over the forest. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, leaving only the sound of their footsteps crunching on the forest floor. Each step they took brought a mix of anticipation and trepidation, for they knew that the trials of the forest were about to begin. The arrival at the trial, the trio came to a clearing where the trees formed a perfect circle. In the center stood a towering stone archway covered in glowing ancient runes. The air around the archway shimmered with faint blue light as though it were alive. As they stepped closer, the runes pulsed, and a low melodic voice echoed through the clearing. The first trial begins now, the trial of trust. Only those who can place their faith in one another will move forward. Proceed with caution, for doubt is your enemy here. Before they could react, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The clearing shifted, and the trio found themselves standing at the edge of 3 separate paths, each leading in a different direction. The paths were lined with dense fog that made it impossible to see where they led. A voice resonated again. You must take separate paths, guided only by your trust in one another. The way forward will reveal itself only if your bond remains unbroken. Amara, Lucas, and Sienna exchanged uneasy glances. The thought of separating in a place as ominous as the Forest of Echoes filled them with dread. But they understood the nature of the trial. This was a test of trust, and they had no choice but to face it. Facing their individual challenges, each friend stepped onto their designated path, the fog swallowing them as they moved forward. Though they were out of sight of one another, the challenges they faced were interconnected, requiring them to trust in their friends' abilities to succeed. Amara's challenge: overcoming fear through vulnerability. Amara's path led her to a narrow bridge suspended over a deep chasm. The planks beneath her feet creaked with every step, and the abyss below seemed endless. Halfway across, the bridge began to shake violently, and a voice whispered in her ear, "You cannot protect them. You are not strong enough." Amara hesitated, fear gripping her heart. She had always seen herself as the protector of their group, but now doubts began to creep in. For the first time, she realized that her strength alone wasn't enough to see them through. Taking a deep breath, she focused on her friends, imagining Lucas's calm logic and Sienna's comforting presence. Trusting that they would succeed in their own challenges, she found the courage to move forward. Lucas' challenge: trusting, intuition over logic. Lucas' path brought him to a maze of mirrors, each one reflecting distorted images of himself and his friends. At every turn, the mirrors whispered conflicting directions, their voices urging him to doubt his choices. Lucas, who always relied on logic, found himself paralyzed by indecision. In that moment, he remembered something Sienna had once said: "Not every decision comes from the head. Sometimes you have to listen to your heart." Closing his eyes, he ignored the mirrors and the voices, choosing to trust his instincts. He followed the faint sound of Amara's voice in his memory, letting his bond with his friends guide him out of the maze. Sienna's challenge: believing in herself. Sienna's path led her to a dark forest filled with shadowy figures that whispered doubts into her ears. The figures grew larger and more menacing with each step, embodying her deepest fears. "You are the weakest link. They don't need you." Tears welled in Sienna's eyes as she began to falter, but then she remembered all the times Amara and Lucas had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. She clutched a small charm Lucas had given her, a reminder of their friendship, and pushed forward, trusting that her friends were counting on her to succeed. The reunion, as each of them overcame their personal challenges, the fog began to lift, and the paths converged into a single trail. Amara, Lucas, and Sienna emerged from their separate trials and found themselves back in the clearing, standing before the stone archway. Relief washed over them as they embraced, their bond stronger than ever. The runes on the archway glowed brighter, and the melodic voice spoke once more. "You have passed the trial of trust. Together, you are stronger than your fears and doubts. Continue forward, for the next trial awaits." The lesson of the trial of trust, was not merely a test of their ability to rely on one another. It was a reminder of the importance of vulnerability, intuition, and self-belief. By overcoming their individual doubts and trusting in their friends, they had proven that their bond was unbreakable. The experience left them more united than ever, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the Forest of Echoes. Would you like me to expand further on the emotional impact of this trial, or how it foreshadows their next challenges? Conclusion: after braving the perils of the Forest of Echoes, overcoming the trials of trust, sacrifice, and unity, Amara, Lucas, and Sienna finally stood before the Crystal of Unity. It shimmered with an ethereal light, its radiance filling the sacred grove with warmth and hope. As they approached the crystal, they felt its magic reach out to them, as if acknowledging the strength of their friendship and the purity of their intentions. Placing their hands on the crystal together, they felt a surge of energy coursing through them. Visions of their village, once withered and desolate, now blooming with life and vitality, filled their minds. The crystal's power flowed outward, restoring the river's flow, healing the barren fields, and bringing the forest back to its vibrant glory. When they returned to Willowbrook, the villagers were awestruck by the transformation. The trio shared their tale not as heroes, but as friends who had relied on one another to overcome impossible odds. The experience left a lasting lesson for the entire village. Unity and trust were not just virtues. They were the foundation of life itself. From that day forward, the Crystal of Unity became more than just a legend. It became a symbol of what the village could achieve when its people worked together. Amara, Lucas, and Sienna remained closer than ever, their bond serving as a beacon of hope for generations to come. The story of their journey echoed throughout Willowbrook, a testament to the secret power of friendship, a power capable of transforming hearts, healing lands, and forging unbreakable bonds in the face of adversity.